You admitting them, Vern? Okay. All right, everybody, welcome back. Good to be here with you guys. As a reminder, please just turn on your cameras and announce yourself as you ask a question, and with that, I'll open it up to Coach.
Okay, good to see everybody flicking onto the screen here. Appreciate you coming out for this. It was a very important win yesterday against a very good team, an AFC contending team, very successful team, and team that's going to win a lot of games this year. So we're very happy with the win. We've been working on the game all morning. We'll be finishing that up here as a coaching staff here this afternoon, and then moving on to the Chiefs here late afternoon and into the evening as far as that preparation goes. And we'll have the players in tomorrow afternoon to go through this tape and start on the Chiefs. So that's where we're at. And what questions do you have?
John Dave Ginsburg, AP. I know that you are analyzing yesterday's game, but how soon after it was done did you start thinking about this big game Monday night against the Chiefs?
Well, you can't help it. You think about it. It's probably the first thing that goes in your mind once you get in the locker room. You kind of start talking about the game, and then everybody's talking about it in the locker room about the next one too. So certainly, it's really honestly, Dave, it's that way every week, But this probably as much as any week we're thinking about the next one.
Hey, John, it's Daniel who's on the Baltimore side. I know you're focusing on your own game, but across the league there were a number of injuries, ankle, knee injuries. Just how much would you attribute that to just the changed training camp and the lack of OCAs and whatnot?
Right. Daniel, I really don't know. I mean, in all honesty, you can speculate, and that would be a logical conclusion, certainly. But gosh, you just don't know for sure. I do think it's true that the best way to get in football shape is to play football. All the other stuff is helpful. The ramping up and those kind of things, and the conditioning is really important. But, the off-season program, the OTAs, the training camp, even the games are valuable, and help guys, I think, move in ways that they learn to protect themselves, and you just get ready to play football. So I don't know the answer, but obviously where you're coming from does make sense.
Hey, Coach, Ty Carpenter from SI. The Texans had a really aggressive pass rush yesterday coming after Lamar. How do you think you handle that pressure? And that's I guess that's going to be sort of the strategy going forward. Teams are going to try to bottle it up and keep them under pressure. How do you think you handled it yesterday, and how you handle it going forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it's new. Every team tries to pressure every week. Nobody wants to just let the quarterback sit back there and do his thing. So they've got really good pass rushers. They did get 4 sacks. They got some sacks early. They did a really good job with their cage rush. They left Lamar with nowhere to go a couple times, just with good coverage and rush. A lot of times as the pocket begins to collapse, not collapse, but tighten up a little bit. Lamar's been able to find guys open, and they, this time there weren't always guys open, and he had to eat the ball. I thought he made good decisions, held onto the ball in the pocket. And sometimes you got to take the sack. We did a pretty good job, really. As I watched the tape, I felt better about it after watching the tape than I did watching the game during the game. We did a better job probably than I thought. So, we not great about 4 sacks, but that is a good pass rush team. So, in the end, we just got to try to keep getting better at everything every single day, and that's definitely one of those things.
Hey, John, it's Luke Jones with WNST. A 2-part question. One, did you get final word on Tavon and his injury? And I know you'd much rather have him on the field, but with the way that Marlon Humphrey played in the slot last year, do you feel that gives you a better idea moving forward as far as the best way to proceed in the secondary?
Well, yeah, we did get final word on Tavon. It is a torn ACL. It's only a torn ACL, so that's a positive. He'll be going back into he'll have surgery and going to rehab, and he'll fight his way back. There's no question about it. So our hearts go out to him on that, and we'll be supporting him all the way. Going forward, we'll see where we go. Yeah, knowing that we have options in the slot is really valuable. Of course, we put safeties in there too, but knowing that Marlon can go in there and play the way he did yesterday and then last season is a big plus. And we'll just try to figure out what we're going to do next during the course of the week, and we'll have a plan for Monday night.
Hey, John, this is Adam Kilgore from the Washington Post.
Mm-hmm.
You had to prepare last week for a quarterback who poses a great threat to run Mahomes is the same way this week. It seems like that's almost more the norm now in the NFL as opposed to the exception, that you're playing a guy who can really move and poses a threat with his legs. Do you see the NFL kind of making a shift away from the traditional pure pocket passer at all? And if so, what factors do you think have sort of brought it to that point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking at the macro dynamics of that right now. Really don't really care that much about it, except for in terms of who we're playing in the next game, and we're playing the type of guy you're talking about for sure. You know, he's the defending champ. You know, he's just been phenomenal in his first 3 years in the National Football League. We've seen it up close and personal on 2 different occasions at their place the last 2 years, where he's made some just tremendous plays that have really been in the end beaten us. So we've got to find a way to stop him and all those weapons they've got. It's going to be a big challenge, but yeah, mobility in the pocket, ability to extend plays, the things that you saw both quarterbacks do in our game yesterday is just a huge part of the NFL right now. So, you know, it's a big factor, you know, as a defense to think about and to consider how you're going to try to defend it.
Hey, John, this is Jameson. As you know, you don't. The Ravens don't get too many home Monday night games. How disappointing is it not to have? I know you understand about the pandemic, but how disappointing is it not to going to have fans Monday night and one of the games that most fans are really anticipated for?
Yeah, the irony of it's pretty unbelievable. You know, in terms of how many few Monday night home games we've had in the past 13 years. And for it to, you know, we get one against the Chiefs and this kind of a big game, and there's, you know, fans are not going to be there. I don't even know what to say about that. But 2020, man, it's that kind of a crazy year, I guess. So, but we'll be excited to play still, though. And Jameson, you know, all that being said, it'll still be a great environment. It'll still be a lot of fun. We'll be ready. They'll be ready. It'll be a great night for football.
Hey, John, it's Mark Viviano. You've coached any number of big games, Super Bowl, playoff games. When it comes to big games, do you address the obvious of what, you know, who the opponent is in terms of the scope of it, or is it best just to treat it as a normal game? What's your approach?
I don't think you can ignore it. You know, the guys understand that. You can't sit there and pretend it's you know, every game's important. That's the thing. I mean, it is true because they all count for wins, and you don't want to mess up one that the fans or somebody else might not think is important. But, you know, who wouldn't get excited for a game like this? You know, when you're playing a team that is the defending champs, the favorites to win the whole thing again going forward, the type of players they have, the coaches they have, the head coach, Coach Reed, you're going to get excited about it. And it's not something that we downplay. We don't ignore it. We try to embrace it and make the most of it, really. That's what we try to do.
Hey, John, this is Childs at the Sun. You just mentioned Andy. You know him well. I mean, why do you think he's managed to sort of stay ahead of the game for so many years in terms of play designing and play calling?
It's just really good. You know, I think Childs, he's really good. He's always been that way. He's never been a guy that's been locked into a system. He's always tried to, you know, he's got the West Coast fundamental system that he learned from Mike Holmgren. That's his foundation. But he's always been a guy that's looked for new things. I mean, he had Brad Childress on his staff for a number of years studying RPOs before anybody else was doing it in the NFL. That's Andy. Andy's always looking for a play, always looking for a big play, you know. Anything he does, pretty much all the time, the play is designed to try to score. You know, that's what you understand about Andy. That's just the way he looks at the game. So, you know, we try to understand that when we defend it as well. And we've got a lot of respect for what he does and for what they do.
John, this is Jeff Srebeck. We haven't asked you about Matabuke and Moore in probably 3 or 4 weeks. Could they be options for Monday, and did you expect to see them at all in the practice field?
Right. I'd say that they have a chance to practice this week at some point in time to some degree. We'll just have to see, you know, how much they're able to do, you know. And, you know, Chris Moore, if he's able to do enough, he could play special teams. You know, he could jump right in there. You know, Justin, he hasn't, you know, he's a rookie, so we'd have to see enough to feel comfortable with him out there Monday night. But from a health standpoint, this is the week that both those guys had a shot, yeah.
Hey, John, this is Kevin with the Baltimore Sun. We got a chance to see a lot of Anthony Everett yesterday. How would you assess his play?
Thought he played well. You know, I really did. They were looking at him a little bit, and he played well. You know, they called him one time for a illegal contact. I didn't see it on the tape, so you know, can't fault the coverage there at all. And he was running to the ball. He had a couple of tackles. You know, we're not really. Anthony's not a concern for us. You know, he's practiced really well. He's played well when he's played. He's kind of biding his time. This will certainly be his opportunity, you know, to step in there and show what he can do. But he's played really well on special teams this year, so we're not concerned about Anthony. We're excited to see him play.
Hey, John. Stan Charles from Press Box. I'm
Stan,
how you doing?
Good to see you back. I mean, where you been, man?
I've been laying low.
That's okay. That's good. That's good. You look good. Right. You look great.
Thank you. I've lost 30 pounds.
Wow.
Walking every day.
What's your secret? Walking every day?
Walking every day and being diagnosed as a diabetic. So that'll do it to you.
All right. Congrats.
All right. I know we're only 2 weeks into the season, and I know you've only played 2 games. I don't know how much other football you've watched. Are you surprised at the high level of the intensity of the games, given the lack of a preseason, you know, with preseason games?
No. I mean, I felt like we felt like games would be intense. It's a good question, but you know, this is the NFL. If you don't come out and bring it, you're going to get embarrassed. You know, and I feel like all the players and the coaches understand that. It doesn't matter. You know, the environment's definitely different. You know, it's definitely that environment in Houston was even different than our stadium because it was indoors. You know, so it just seemed very strange. But both teams were bringing the energy and yelling and screaming after a kickoff play. You know, both sidelines erupting when their side made plays. You know, it was kind of football in its purest form, no question about it. Sometimes you say, you know, we'll play them anywhere. We'll play them in a parking lot. You know, we'll play them anywhere. No fans, we don't care. Well, here we are. We're playing it basically in a parking lot right now, you know, with no fans. And I think the level of play has been really good, you know. So, yeah, we're proud of them.
Love your T-shirt.
Yeah, I wanted to see if you guys noticed that or not. Mo Strong. Thanks, Stan. Appreciate that.
Hey, John, this is Jonas Schaefer with the Baltimore Sun. Lamar's just been really, really accurate this year. The knock on him coming into the NFL was that he was a sub 60% passer in college. Just from a big picture perspective, I mean, have you found that most guys are pretty static in terms of their accuracy? I know there's so many variables, but for him to make the kind of leap that he has, is that unusual?
Probably, but I don't think he was an inaccurate passer in college. One of the things we studied in tape, it's one thing to look at the numbers, it's another thing to look at the player, you know. And when you watch Lamar, we felt like he had arm talent and he had accuracy, you know, that he had the ability to be accurate. He was an accurate thrower. We felt like a lot of the things that you know, the missed throws that he had were more about technique than anything else. And sometimes other things that blend into it too, and certainly, you know, experience and repetitions and stuff like that. But he's just done a great job. I mean, he's worked on his base. He cleaned up his footwork, his hip work, his angle. You know, the angle of his release is just. People thought that was a negative when they watched him. It's turned out to be one of his greatest strengths. You know, so you can never make assumptions about what you're looking at all the time and generalize too much. But he's certainly when you watch him day in and day out, you can't help but say this is a very accurate passer. I mean, he puts the ball where it needs to be in some really tight spaces on a really regular basis. So he's done it in the games. Everybody's seen it. So I'm not sure about the big picture question, Jonas. It's a good question. But for Lamar, I would say, you know, the accurate arm ability was always there.
Anyone else? Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for your time,
everybody.
Coach.
Appreciate it.